Hello everyone, I'm Chol. Today's topic is OpenLDAP on CentOS 6.5. For OpenLDAP on CentOS 6.5, I prepare for the 4 part. In part 1, I will explain the LDAP concept, and the part 2 for OpenLDAP server, part 3 OpenLDAP client and security, and the last part will be phpLDAPadmin. Okay, LDAP introduction. Normally every day we use many kinds of informations, and this kind of information must be organized in clear and consistent method, because this kind of information normally can be used for the service, users, or other object. And this kind of information normally must be accessible from many applications. So this kind of information will be the share among many applications. Normally we say this kind of the information is the kind of the database, especially we call it a directory. So lightweight directory access protocol, normally LDAP, is open industry standard that has the involved to meet this kind of needs. So we can say LDAP defines the standard method for accessing and updating the information in a directory. So if we want to use a directory, normally we use the LDAP. What is a directory? We can say here, directory is a kind of specialized database, but a little bit different from database. And this kind of database normally stores the small pieces of the informations. So we can say the directory is a kind of specific purpose the database. For example, telephone book. Telephone book is a kind of directory. Why? Because this one normally save the name and telephone numbers. DNS as well, this is a kind of directory. Why? Because this one also saved host name to IP address. NIS as well, this is a kind of directory because this one normally save username and password file, and the name here, name to the email aliases, and mount point to device, and so on. So we can say the directory is a kind of the data repository because this will also store typed and ordered information about many kinds of objects. Directory and the database. I already told you directory is a kind of the database, but directory is, even if we can say database, but normally directory has a very special characteristics different from database. Okay, first one, normally database directory is accessed much more than updated, so they are optimized for read access. And the directory is not suitable for information that changes rapidly. For example, like a number of jobs in printer queue. And many directory services don't support the transaction, but the database normally support the transaction. And the directories normally limit the type of the information can be stored. And the database normally use powerful query the language like SQL. But directory normally use what? Very simple access method like plain text. Directory can be optimized to economically provide more applications with rapid access. LDAP and LDAP and X.500. So X.500 is a directory model developed by ITUT, and DAP is a directory service for X.500. But DAP, this one a little bit heavy and impractical. So many people don't want to use the DAP. So later, LDAP from the DAP, just add what? L, mean the light. So this one is a simplified strategy because normally we say this one light and the practicals. So LDAP come from the University of the Michigan, and including model implementations as well. So nowadays, the LDAP version 3 technology specification defined where? Here, RFC 3377. I already told you the X.500 is a directory service. So this one is a general purpose directory service designed by ISO and CCITT. And this directory fully connected the global directory and information organized where in a tree structures. And the X.500 say the flexible the information model. And this one at first time the intended for X.500 email directories and OSI name services. So now this one X.500. And the DAP normally have protocol to support client and server communications. X.500 has the problem here. Okay, X.500 is a bit complex and resource hungry to implement it. Complex means very complicated and difficult to configure or set up. Standard process did not require test the implementation to prove the feasibility. Early implementation, the X.500 so slow, buggy, and did not interoperate well. Because one of the reason X.500 is tied to OSI, normally the 7 layers network model, but internet based on TCP/IP stack, and the TCP/IP stack normally has what? Only 4 layers. So the X.500 deployment was so slow. LDAP, lightweight, the directory access protocol. At first time, LDAP originally for use what? Not server, only desktop computer client. LDAP the improve X.500 DAP in several ways. First one, LDAP normally use what? The TCP the transport in place of OSI networking and simplify the protocol to only 9 basic operations. And this one the use the subset of X.500 message encoding rules and data elements is simple because normally this one use what? Text strings. LDAP strengths and the limitation. LDAP is well suitable for information. What kind of information? References by many entities and applications. Also, LDAP is suitable for the information needed to be accessed from more than one location, like a remote site. And this one also information, this kind of the LDAP information is read more than written. But LDAP is not well suitable for the information to change open because this is not the relational database like Oracle and MySQL. And this one also not suitable for information is unstructured because this is not a file system. The type of directories, here there are 4 kinds. First one, local directory, global directory, and centralized directory, and distributed directory. Local directory means the nearby for information about like names, email address, and so on for department or for one the work group. Global, some the attribute will be the spread across the universe of the using like interest. So for example, like information, what kind of information? The person in entire company. Centralized, there's one directory server and one location, and local or remote client can access this centralized their directory servers. Distributed, the information may be partitioned here or replicated. Normally we say distributed directory. This is a kind of the example of the directory structure. Okay, for example, directory root, normally we say it's a top, and this top has O mean the organization in case of this one, IBM. C mean the country name is a US. And this organization, IBM, has OU, organization unit, marketing team, and support team. And the country name also here, organization and this organization. And OU, this marketing OU also has this kind of informations here, and this one too. Common name and the common name. Each one has object class, this kind of attribute as well. This one too, here, also common name and each the attribute and the value like this. About the attribute later you will study. LDAP normally use their own the file type. Normally we say LDIF. So LDIF means standard text-based format for describing directory entries. So if you add or modify or delete LDAP the directory, the database, then normally we have to use what? This file format. This is a kind of example in LDIF. So DN, CN, given name, SN, telephone number, telephone mail, many kinds of the entries here. So LDIF, this kind of the LDAP file format has include this kind of informations. In the previous page, you experience already many the attribute here. So DN mean the distinction name, it mean the identifying the entry, and the CN mean the common name. Normally we say so full name. SN mean the surname is a user's last name. UID mean the login name. C mean normally country code. O mean the name of organization. OU mean name of organization unit, and the mail mean the email address. Distinction name, normally we say the DN. So each the attribute has their own the DN. For example, here each object, so there has the DN. For example, UID, in my case John, OU mean organization unit, and his domain name like a char.com. CN common name is a user's, organization unit is a group, and char.com domain like this. And the DNS name is in my case is char.com, and this name is specified by the DC, mean domain the component here, DC and the DC. OU mean the organization unit, and each domain and subdomain can create the tree structure in LDAP. For example, in my case, I'm using the char.com, and this domain also can create a subdomain like edu. Also, I create the research, and edu.char.com is a subdomain of the char.com, and this subdomain also can create subdomain as well. For example, pre.edu.char.com or info.edu.char.com like this. This is a kind of sample directory, the information trees. So normally we say is what? It's a root. It's a O mean the NY, it's a New York, C mean the country code is a US, and organization. And this organization has 3 OU, mean organization unit. This 1, 2, and the 3. And this OFT organization unit also has OU below this OU, so like a group, people, resources, and applications. And each OU also has their own this kind of the DN information, like a CN common name, common name, common name. This one UID, 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 common name, and common name. Common name, like this. This is a kind of the information, the tree. So here, This is a kind of branches by the agents, and this kind in this example, the agency has branches, and these branches has contain like a group and the people in organization and the resources and applications. We can say this one is a kind of the directory information tree structures. This one is a kind of object here about the user. So we can find this kind of the object the structure. So for example, this kind of object contain the attribute. For example, like a UID, CN, common name, surname, and mail address. And this attribute also can be multi-valued. For example, here, given name, here there are two, Jim and James. And this object contain also white page. White page means the contact informations, and X.5, the 509 certificate for you here, and the telephone number, and telephone numbers, and address like this. Object class normally commonly used attribute. Commonly here, normally we say the object class, and each record the represent object and the attribute associated with the object, and this kind of object must be defined according to each the object class. And for this is a kind of example object class. For example, like organization. This organization will have the name or address like attribute, person, name, email, phone, and address. Course, for example, like a course ID, instructor name, and the course name like this. In case of food, the name of the food and how much, and how about the taste index like this. To define the object class type here, at first, what attributes are required for object, and this object is with specific value for object class the attribute. And after that, what attributes are allowed, and new record must not adhere to this kind of settings. Multiple value. Each attribute I already show you to have multiple values. For example, here, this distinguished name here, CN common name, organization, and country name. For example, here, CN, okay, Zhengchao, Wazhangwang, like this. Email also, like this. So each the attribute can have the multiple values. OID, years. You can say this one is a kind of private entity numbers. So entity have to register here the INA.org to have the unique numbers for building LDAP schema entries. So if you want to your own LDAP the schema entries, you must have this kind of entities. We normally say OID. For example, INA's root had this number. And for example, like Microsoft here, this is INA is the root, and after that 311. In case of the Red Hat, the product must have this kind of the OID numbers. If you want to know the exact meaning of this kind of OID number here, you can check like this. For example, here one mean ISO assigned OID, and 13 ISO identified organization, and 136 mean U.S. Department of Defense. 13661 OID assigned from the internet, and 136.14 mean internet private, and these numbers mean INA register private enterprise. This one normally say this one is the same because this one INS root OID numbers. LDAP's the basic operation. There are three kinds. First one bind, second start TLS, third unbind. Bind mean authenticate and specify the LDAP protocol versions, and the start TLS protect the connection with transport level security using the we normally say TLS to have more secure connections. In previous page, I already told you LDAP normally use what? Plain text, very the simple plain text. So this kind of plain text is very the vulnerable and weak for many the hacking attack like sniffing. So if you want to protect your connection by the LDAP, then I recommend you to use TLS. Using TLS also we can use this kind of the features: search, compare, adding a new entry, delete, modify DN, and abandon, extend operator like this. Unbind means the close the connection. So here I told you here bind. This means authenticate the client to the server. So normally the LDAP server and client authentication system. Bind normally the send the user's distinguished name. Here normally is ID. Okay, normally say is ID and password in clear text. So using the LDAP, sending the message using the clear text connection, this kind of connection should be protected using TLS. Server, the LDAP server typically check the password against the user password attribute here in named entry. And the bind also set LDAP protocol version. Normally we using LDAP version 3. Start the TLS using the TLS, okay, establish. And the TLS means the descent of SSL on the connection. And this kind of connection provide data confidentiality and the data integrity. During the TLS negotiation, server send X.500 certificate. So if we want to implement the TLS, you have to create your own certificate. Client may also send a certificate to prove each identity. So if you implement the TLS on the LDAP, normally protocol name will be LDAP-S. The mean LDAP over SSL. Search and compare. This is a kind of the features of LDAP as well. Using search and compare parameters have these kind of things: base, object, scope, filter, and the attribute, and the size limit and time limit, and types only like this. Schemas. The contents of the entries in the subtree is governed by the schema. So when you use the LDAP, you will meet many kinds of the schemas. And this kind of schema normally define what? The attribute types. And this kind of the attribute types by the directory entries can contain. Mean directory entries must contain this kind of attribute types. And this kind of attribute type can be defined by what? Schemas. And the attribute definition include the syntax. Most non-binary values in LDAP version 3 use what? This kind of string format. For example, like a mail. Mean this attribute mean what? Value like this, user@actual.com. JPG photo attribute is a contain photograph like a JPG format. Member here attribute contain DN, distinguished name of other directory entries. And the attribute definition also include whether the attribute is a single value or multi-value. So I already told you, especially normally the LDAP attribute support what? Multi-values as well. And how to search compare attribute. And the schema also define what? Object the classes. Each entry must have object the class attribute and containing named class defined in the schema. For example, like a person, organization, or domain. Server administrator also can define their own the schemas. So if you need your own the schema, you can create your own the schema by yourself. But this is a kind of example of the schema. So attribute type and object class, each the entries here. This one too. OpenLDAP means it's a kind of the package name, and this is open source, the LDAP, the version 3 implementation. If you install or use the LDAP version 3, then you can find two kinds of daemon, swap and slough. So if you want to use the LDAP server as a standalone, then you have to start a swap daemon. And if the LDAP server want to support the replication, then you have to start this daemon. Also, for LDAP, include the libraries, and this library includes Java library. LDAP, OpenLDAP normally use two kinds port number for the TCP 389, and if you implement the LDAP security, LDAP S here, then normally port number 636. Normally these days, major Unix distributions like Red Hat, CentOS, or CC normally include this OpenLDAP package as a default package. If you want to get more information, then please visit this website. And the latest version of OpenLDAP is, in my case, usually this 2.4.23. Active Directory in Windows 2008. Microsoft also used the directory service. We normally said Active Directory. Active Directory in Windows Server also used for this kind of directory server using what? LDAP or covers 5 and DNS. So if you install the Active Directory, DNS is a default directory service. And the scalable and available the architecture in Active Directory also. And this one extends significantly but does not replace common X.500 schema element. Okay, this is the end of the part 1, the LDAP concept. In part 2, I will show you how to configure OpenLDAP server. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to download this script, then please visit this website. See you in next video.